long-awaited death of Fidel Castro brings up a lot of raw emotion for Cuban Americans. Families today visiting the graves of loved ones who didn't get to see this historic moment.
Local 10's Leanne Morejon is live now in Little Havana with our continuing coverage. Leanne.
Lori and Victor, yesterday when I was right outside of Versailles Cuban Cafe, it was sort of the running theme that we encountered with a lot of people. Folks who say, I am here today, I am celebrating this moment, I'm commemorating this moment because my grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle, parent, etc. could not. That is why we came just down the street to the Caballero Rivera Woodlawn North Cemetery. So many Cuban Americans buried right here. And if we show you some video, these are just two families that we met today who were visiting their loved ones. They had flowers in their hands. Some of them brought Cuban flags to put in those little vases with those flowers, taking a moment, taking the chance to not only pray, but to be there and have those quiet moments with their loved ones who they know would have loved to have been here for such a moment. And so let's introduce you to a couple of these people whose stories we learned about today and who these families have lost. First of all, Dr. Rene Perez Terran of Santiago de Cuba, also his wife Maria Caridad Fernandez. They were visited by their daughter and her husband today. Dr. Perez Terran was an OBGYN in Cuba. He landed a job. His daughter came actually through the Pedro Pan program, where children were sent by themselves to the United States in hopes of a better life. They were eventually reunited with their parents, and from there, after being an OBGYN in Cuba, he got a job as an operating room aide in Chicago. They eventually came down to Florida, settled down, and he was able to become a physician here in the United States. And also we met Sonia Sixto, who was visiting her mother's gravesite. Her name, Placido Alonso. She was visiting her father along with her mother, who is still alive. But Placido Alonso had a farm in Cuba, taught himself to repair televisions, and when he came here to the United States, actually was a TV repairman and had a shop on Coral Way, she says, for many, many years. He died at the age of 74. She says he was actually born the same year as Fidel Castro, but sadly died before he did. And here's some of what they had to say today.
My mother died almost 14 years ago, and my father died last October 14th. He was 100 years old.
I came to visit my dad, who happened to be born the same year as Castro did, and he passed away with the dream of one day seeing a free Cuba, or at least a Cuba without under the control of Fidel Castro. So I brought him flowers and a Cuban flag.
It's a moment that I wish my parents could have been able to experience.
Sentiments shared with so many families here in South Florida. This cemetery is now closed. We saw a lot of families who had flags, who said that they were here for that same purpose. Anyone wishing to do the same will have to wait till tomorrow, though, as most cemeteries close at sundown. We are live near Little Havana. Leanne Morejon, Local 10 News.